Hey, welcome to my third video. If you watched my other two, thank you so much. It was a lot for me to put those out there, so hopefully you guys enjoyed them. As you can probably tell by the title of today's video, I'm going to tell you my concussion story. I thought it deserved its own video just because it's such an important topic and it's something that impacted my life in a huge way, and that can't just be lightly touched upon. So here we go. My story. As I said before, was in the military, and that's where I got my first concussion. So we were out, I did my basic military training in Manitoba, outside of Winnipeg. It's in a town called Brandon. Just outside a town called Brandon, actually, in a town called Shiloh. I did my training at Canadian Forces Base Shiloh. We went through a 2-month-long training course, and at the end of that 2 months, we had, you know, the big final exam, which was a field exercise. See, I can't think because it's a baseball cap and not a tube. Maybe I have a problem. At the end of our 2-month course, we had a 1-week-long field exercise. So that was like the big grand finale final exam. And at one point I was running with a weapon in my hand. It was a gun, and we were doing an exercise where you have to hit the ground really quickly. One time when I did that, I hit my head really hard on my weapon. That's a really weird thing for me to say still. Instead, when I went to the ground so quickly, my weapon hit the ground and then my head hit my weapon before my body hit the ground. So my jaw literally took all that force. And I got back up and I kind of tried to move my jaw. It was really hard to move. I just kept going because that's what you do. I mean, you're in the middle of training. Honestly, I was pretty injured and I didn't realize it, but it's not... You don't really have the opportunity to think of that because there's mock bombs going off all around you, and it's like, it's a really intense environment. And when you have that kind of challenge, and I was totally, when you're in the middle of that kind of challenge, you're kind of consumed by it and you want to do your best and you're with your team, and so you tend not to notice everything that's happening with your body. You know, you're moving forward is more of a priority than stopping to check and see if you're okay. Especially being such a competitive person, that's, you know, I was there to do as well as I could and not stop and say, oh, well, I'm a little hurt. As it turns out, I was actually quite hurt. But I finished the field exercise, and it wasn't until years later that I found out that that was actually my first concussion. And it was a pretty significant one too. I went to get my wisdom teeth out and the oral surgeon said, have you ever been abused? I'm like, no. He said, it's really important, you can tell me. And I'm like, seriously, no, that's not even close. I had an awesome life. And he said, well, you have a hairline fracture in your jaw. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, that's the only opportunity I've ever had to have broken my jaw. And there you go. So it didn't hit me until years later that it was a very significant injury. Okay, there was the military experience. Okay, what did I do after that? Started snowboarding, and I played a little bit of hockey on the side too, which I was really not very good at, which is probably why I fell over a lot and hit my head. Yeah. And of course with snowboarding, those of you who snowboard, you know it's an intense sport. To learn snowboarding, you fall a lot, and when you catch your edge, you're done. You're gonna hit your head at some point in time. So I did a few times. I was really trying to progress and get better, and I was improving, and it was great. I was so happy. When I was riding a lot, I had a few sessions that I fell quite a lot, and when I fell, it was just the kind of fall that tapped my head too, and you know, when you catch an edge, you can go down quickly. And that's what happened. So there were a few, let's say, mild concussions. But based on the fact that I never took care of a concussion before, I never actually let myself heal from it. And at this point, I had had at least 4 in a period of 3 months that I could identify. I was feeling really off. I didn't know what was wrong, but I knew something was. I was an emotional wreck. I was exhausted. I was getting these confused spells constantly. I felt like the epitome of a blonde. And that's something I've always fought. It was a really hard and confusing time for me. And it took a lot for me to identify that concussions were a significant thing for me. My boyfriend really helped me with that. Otherwise, I probably never would have realized it. Whenever I'd spend time in the gym, I started to get this throbbing feeling in my head. I couldn't lift anymore. There was just so much pressure in my head. And I was feeling sick. If you think of what it feels like to feel good, I was the complete opposite of that all the time, and it was just relentless. My boyfriend, again, he urged me to go to the doctor and said, you know, you need to take care of this, and if you can get somebody to look at you, you know, you can at least get what he called a baseline test to figure out what my normal was, basically, and where I was sitting. I went to the doctor, which was actually a huge thing for me. It was a huge thing, because I've always gone to see a homeopathic doctor. I never really went to see a doctor for anything else. And so for me to consult a medical doctor, it was a different decision for me to make. And so it was a big step, and I went in there, I said, I think I've had a concussion, and not just one concussion, I think I had several, and I'm not doing okay. And the doctor said, well, I don't know what to do with you. Even if you had a concussion, there's nothing I can do. I left her office and I kept going on with my life, and I kept feeling shitty, and I went to the emergency one day, and they actually forgot about me. They didn't even realize I was there. I was sitting, after hours and hours of sitting there, I was in this one little alcove off to the side that they told me to sit in, and one doctor walked by, and I guess he had a moment to spare, and he said, are you waiting for someone? And I said, yeah, waiting for a doctor. And he said, oh, you're a patient. You're not waiting for a friend or something? And I said, no, I'm a patient. And he asked me what was wrong. I said, I've had several concussions and I feel awful all the time, and I need somebody to look at me. And he looked in my eyes and he said, okay, follow my finger. And I did, and he said, no, you're fine, go home. That was after hours. I was there hours, like 4 or 6, which isn't the worst, but you know, it's a long enough time to have been wasted for an answer like that, and that was really, really frustrating. I was so angry. So I pushed everything to the side, and that was it. There was no one to help me, and I knew something was wrong, really wrong, and I didn't know how to take care of it myself. How did it change my life? Ooh. For one thing, I have been, up until recently, extremely hard on myself for my military performance. I wanted to go there to do better, and I didn't live up to my expectations, and that was an incredibly hard thing for me to swallow. I wanted to do way better than I did, and I've always been really, really critical on myself, but I've been really critical about that experience. I mean, I only found out that was a concussion a few years ago. 2 years ago, I think. And, you know, my family doctor now, who is amazing, said, you know, that was your first concussion, right? And that never even crossed my mind. Never crossed it. I had a huge breakthrough one day. It hit me that, wow, I not only finished basic military training, I actually did it while I was concussed. I finished that field exercise with extreme confusion, and I didn't know why. Honestly, I thought all these years that I wasn't strong enough to have passed that course, and that's why I was so critical. That's why I was so upset with my performance, was because I thought it was through weakness of my own, and it really wasn't. I never imagined all these years that it wasn't a weakness of mine that affected my performance. It was just an injury. You know, all of a sudden, all those years of being critical with myself, that kind of lifted a bit, and that was a huge breakthrough. It was huge. So all those years of being super emotional and moody and not understanding why I was reacting to things the way that I was, that was all concussion based. Like I said, I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what. Even after I left the military, I put it all down to just, maybe I'm not a normal person. maybe I was born less than the rest of the world. If you ever think that about yourself, stow it. If you ever believe that you're less than anybody else on this planet, fuck, turn that off. Everybody is awesome. You can be awesome. Take it from me. I thought I was never going to be a normal person. I thought I was never going to be good enough. Ever. I thought I was never going to accomplish anything. I thought I'd never have the confidence to go out and accomplish what I dreamed of. I thought I was subpar for years and years. It was a huge challenge for me, and it was something I never thought I'd overcome. So what did concussions do for my life? They destroyed my confidence. They annihilated it. That's the hardest thing I've ever dealt with. It's not like a leg injury, you know, if you break your leg, you can see it. It frickin' hurts and you see it, and maybe there's bones sticking out, and great, because it's tangible. With a brain injury, you can't tell. Concussions literally changed my life on a foundational level. And it was only my awareness of that having happened that allowed me to heal from it, because it's invisible. Being left completely on my own like that, with this invisible enemy, I guess you could say, that was brutally hard, and yeah, it affected my life in every single way. If you even think that you have had a concussion regardless of how minor, consult a doctor. And if that doctor doesn't listen to you and doesn't take you seriously, keep pushing. If nobody's listening to you, keep frickin' pushing. Just don't take no for an answer. This is your health. This is your body and your mind, and this is your one shot at life. You can't let one doctor who is going to work every day, and it's their job to interpret what you're telling them. You can't let that one doctor write off your whole life. You know, don't put the health of your body in somebody else's hands. Take it into your own hands, and if somebody's not listening to you, you keep going. And you know, there's going to be a doctor out there somewhere who will listen to you. So if you have a family doctor and they're not listening to you and not taking you seriously, keep looking. You know, it doesn't hurt to connect with several doctors, and it doesn't hurt to go with naturopaths as well. They're awesome. If you think that you've had a concussion, just get that shit fixed as quick as you can. Tip number 2. I fought this one for a really long time, and it's because my sister is so damn persistent that I finally went to see a counselor. Best thing I ever did. As far as counseling goes, it's really important that you find somebody that you click with. You want to leave every session. You want to leave your sessions feeling really good and stronger. If you feel like this person is tearing you down, then, you know, find another counselor. I got really lucky on my first try. I found a counselor that I really connected with, and she helped me through a lot of shit, and you know, a lot of my breakthroughs were because of our sessions together, and I'm so grateful for that, and I'm grateful for my sister for making me do that. You rock, teen. If you do one thing, don't be alone with this. Just don't keep that all to yourself and bottle it up inside and just spend years being hard on yourself. You know, honestly, it hurts me to say, but it turned into self-hatred and self-loathing for me because I thought I just wasn't normal, and I hated myself for a long time. It's hard to admit that. And to be in the place where I am now, I have faith in myself again. If I had found somebody right in the beginning to help me through what I was going through and help me be aware what I was actually going through, it would have been, my whole life would have been different from that day. It would have done me a world of good, and that's, I can't go back now. You know, I'm way stronger for it, for having been through what I've been through, and I'm grateful for that. But don't keep to yourself. Tell people that you trust. Talk to your friends, talk to your doctor, talk to your counselor. Sometimes you can be more open with a counselor than you can with your family members and friends, because you know there's less judgment there. They're professionally trained to handle this stuff. Tip number 3. Another thing I didn't do, and I really wish I had: journal. That's like having a counselor. Don't put your physical health solely in the hands of a medical professional. Don't put your mental health solely in the hands of a counseling professional. Get to know yourself and do that through journaling. You can dump a whole bunch of shit from your mind onto paper, and that is priceless. You can lighten your mental load so much by doing that, and you can have some realizations that you never would have had before. You can talk yourself through so much. So have that independence and go see a counselor, but journal as well. I really wish I had, because it would have helped me sort through a lot of stuff, but my mind was so chaotic that I couldn't, I don't know, I didn't focus on one thing at all, ever. A few things journaling will do for you is A, like I just said, give your brain a rest. It's like downloading, it's like clearing a hard drive. Let's put it that way. It's like clearing a hard drive. It can be a huge relief. And it can bring you a ton of clarity too. Clarity is what you want. Clarity evaded me for a very long time. It's going to help you process your emotions and help you through the process of releasing those emotions, because the worst thing that you can do is hold on to them. And if you journal on a regular basis, it's also going to help you see changes over time, whether those be positive changes or negative changes, whatever. It's going to give you an idea of what's happening over time and the progress you're making, or your emotional triggers, if something really stresses you out. I have actually made a journal for you guys, so I will leave the link to that down below. Hopefully you get some use out of it. Hopefully you love it. I hope that it helps you, even if it's just a teeny weeny little tiny bit. Tip number 4, take care of your body. If you are eating healthy, just keeping it clean, avoiding alcohol, avoiding drugs, it's gonna support your brain. The last thing you wanna do is load your body up with maybe comfort food if you're a comfort eater, emotional eater. I'm an emotional eater. If your vehicle's always broken down, you're not gonna get very far very fast. Take care of the vehicle, you're gonna be supporting everything else too. And last but not least, tip number 5, it's okay to not be okay. Allow yourself to not be okay. Don't keep fighting and keep pushing. I did that for so many years. I was going at breakneck speed for so many years, and it just, in terms of intensity and not letting my body slow down and rest and heal, I never let it heal. Just try not to tough it out. It's okay to not be okay. So let yourself slow down. Let yourself take a rest. And, you know, stop pushing through. As important as eating clean is, rest is equally as important. If you don't rest, if you don't slow down or stop, you're not gonna heal, and that's a really important thing. So that wraps up my concussion story. People seem to be talking about it more, but I think it needs to be talked about more and taken more seriously. We're not gonna stop doing sports, so we have to figure out how to heal these things. If you're going through anything, struggling with anything, comment down below. Download that journal and start today. Don't start tomorrow, start today. And on that note, I hope you have an awesome day. Thanks for watching. I gotta go have breakfast because I'm just not functioning anymore.